Everybody, how are you doing? I am here waiting for my buddy Shake to jump on, and I think he is ready to go. So let's bring Shake in.
Yo! Yo,
Yo!
yo, it's party time!
Shower the confetti. Shower the
That's
confetti.
right.
So, so, hey, before we kick off anything, let me introduce our sponsor today, Worship Probs. Serves churches and ministries. You can check out them on their website, Worship Probs, or you can follow them on social media. And they also have a amazing podcast that we've had the privilege of helping do some of the graphics package for that, Worship Karaoke. So join that community. It's a great community that encourages churches, builds up churches, people who are serving in the trenches of your church. So if you haven't checked them out, be sure to check them out. They're sponsoring this episode of ProPresenter Power Talks. And I am here with none other than the famous Shake Mozart.
That's
How's it
right.
how's it going, buddy?
We are here.
We
Man, it's
are
going
here.
good, Steve.
Yeah, yeah.
Going good.
You're staying safe in
Sto-
Florida?
yeah, storms are over.
All the
You
storms are
know,
gone?
so now it's just enjoying the sunshine, enjoying the Central Florida sunshine.
Oh, you're fun. I'm glad you enjoy it. I would rather
Yeah.
not. So
Wow.
well, hey, so today I thought we'd touch base and talk about some of the new things that came out. There was a huge release of ProPresenter, and we're not going to necessarily spend our time covering all of the changes that were made because I kind of already talked to some about this. But Jake, just to bring you up to speed, ProPresenter is now a subscription-based model, and there is
Yeah,
good and bad to that, but I
sure.
think there's a lot of good to it. So yeah, so they released that a few weeks ago, but along with that I think kind of got overshadowed was there were some new features that were released with the ProPresenter 17 beta version that was released with that launch of the subscription. So I
Is
thought,
that Steve? That change? Is it a seismic change for the space?
I think it's a seismic change for a lot of smaller churches. So I
Okay.
think for those of you who have been at a church who want to have ProPresenter, it's a huge change for you because now it only costs $29 to get into it per month. So
So it
you
kind of
do have
opens up the field a little bit.
it opens up the field. So for those of you who are struggling, I mean, shoot, at that rate, if I'm at a small enough church that can't afford to budget that out of the amount, I might personally pay that for them to have that
Yeah,
ability.
sure,
So
sure.
it's pretty, but it is you are paying into it every month. You don't
Hmm.
own it outright. Like if you let the
Yeah,
subscription lapse, moving forward with newer versions. For those of us who've had ProPresenter in the past, through whatever option we had, so like if you had purchased your ProPresenter update license through end of last year, you could still download all those old versions and use those,
okay.
but you can't use anything new. And so it's the same thing here. If you were to come into ProPresenter today, you're locked into using a subscription and keeping it active. If you're an older
Hmm.
past client who has purchased ProPresenter and actually was able to download a copy and own a copy that you could actually license, not tied to a subscription or to having a subscription, you can still do that. You just don't get the updates, which is the same as before. So but I think it's a great model. I mean, we always want ProPresenter to continually come up with new updates, new things, change, and continue to update and tweak to fix bugs that are within the software. I mean,
Yeah.
that all takes money, that all takes time, that all takes people's resources. I want ProPresenter available to help me when there is a problem, when there is a glitch.
Mhm.
So that takes effort, that takes money, and so yeah, it was a seismic shift in the space. I'm just used to having subscriptions I pay for things that I want to do.
Hmm.
So I have a Adobe subscription for my Photoshop subscription, and
Right.
I have my ProPresenter subscription. Like those are things I just budget for. It wasn't as huge of a shift to me personally, but there were some potential, um, sides to every story, and people were
Hmm.
concerned. But
Why? Why do you think that they made this change?
I think it's just a matter of trying to consistently spread out what the user base has. So before
Mhm.
you would have to buy ProPresenter for $399, and then you would have to pay for a yearly upgrade fee. Now the it's the same cost. Really, it's a little less actually, but over 2 years you pay the same amount. You just pay it differently. So for ProPresenter,
Mhm.
you pay day one $29, and then however long you keep it, you continue to pay over that time. Whereas before they were
Yeah.
charging you a huge amount to get into it, so it was hard. It was hard to get people into ProPresenter, and then
Okay.
then it was relatively cheap, but they got a huge amount up front and then not a lot later. I think now it's just shifting
Mhm.
it to, like, if you keep it for 2 years, we get that money over 2 years of you using the product. So
Yeah.
I think it was just a matter of budgeting, and also I think too, like, I think honestly they wanted to make ProPresenter more affordable to get anyone into it, and so
Sure.
they have made the bar come down much lower. So for me, I do some production events at times, and I've wanted to have a second version of ProPresenter to use for those events, and I've not been able
Mhm.
to do that because I have only one version of ProPresenter. Well, now I can rent ProPresenter, a second version, a second seat, for $29 for the
Mm.
month, and then I can cancel it. So there's some
Yeah,
things
and
that
I remember events that we've done as church visuals where we're using ProPresenter on multiple
right,
machines. So then we had to deactivate the license on the one to
right,
activate the license on the other one.
yep. So that the ability to rent, like for us, for when we go to a conference, it's nice to be
Right.
able to, if we wanted to, pay $29 and rent for one
Hmm.
event, and then cancel it and not keep it all year round. So
Yeah.
so
Right.
I think it's everyone has their take, and there's validity to it, but it was great. But
Hmm.
what I wanted to cover is, I think some of that got overshadowed with the new feature they released, which I think is really helpful and cool. Um, for churches. Like, I think a lot of, I don't know, I'd be interested to do a poll if any of you are watching in this video and want to drop later in the comments. Does your church just use ProPresenter to display onto one screen in your room? Like, so you use backgrounds and lyrics? Or is your church using like iMag, like video iMag, and putting content over top of the pastor? And then maybe you have also
Hmm.
like another screen that you put background. So, like, are you running a two screen configuration where you're sending content lower thirds to the pastor, and then you have another screen that's showing all of your graphics and stuff full screen? Or maybe you're a church that just runs strictly iMag, so you don't run content full screen on like a LED wall, but you have just an image, a screen in the room that the pastor's on, and you put content over top of that. How are you using ProPresenter? I'd love to hear that, because I think that would be interesting to hear any of those who are watching this, how your church uses it. But the feature I want to dive into and kind of work with Shake through today is a feature that I think is really helpful for churches that are potentially using iMag and trying to put content over top of it, because that's where I see this used a lot. This feature is used a lot. So, you want to dive into it, Shake?
Let's go. Let's
Okay,
do
let's
it.
do it. So, we've talked about props before, but props can be heavily used. I think where I've used them a lot is to show content over top of video iMag content. And why would that be the case? Well, the answer is because oftentimes you don't want to necessarily put like a slide element on that. So I don't necessarily want to write out like the pastor's name and everything on the slide. I just want to animate pieces of content over top of whatever I'm doing visually in addition. So names for people can sometimes be props, because I don't necessarily want to every week write out the person's name and change it, but I can put a whole entire collection of props, make my staff names, and then I can just recall different props as people are coming up. One. Another
Yeah.
way I've seen it used is like logos. So in the bottom right or in the top right of your screen, you could animate your church logo in. I've seen some churches do like get connected, so they animate their logo in and it says get connected with their number to text to. So those are kind of some ways that I've seen props used that they're not like slide elements that we would put into the slide. They're extra elements that we would recall continually. Text to give. I've seen some churches use text to give as a prop, because then they don't have to necessarily type that out each week or leave that as a slide. it can be just a prop. So what changed with ProPresenter 7 is the props got a little bit of an update that you may not be aware of. It used to be you could just have an entire list of props. So like your props was a never ending list here, okay? Which is great. I use props all the time, but it was pretty like cumbersome, to try to sort through what all you got here, okay? So what they've done is they've added collections now, and collections are like foldering for your props.
Hmm.
So now I could add a collection of named slides, and now it's
Oh yeah,
its own collection. So I can have my name slide here, and I can add a prop in here, and I'm going to call this Shake Mozart. And
yeah.
I'm gonna go in here, and I'm gonna edit the prop, and we're just gonna create a simple animation. Shake, what you think of what title do you want? This is get to name
Oh,
your
how
own.
about
You get to name your own title each day. So
how about director of Riz,
director of
director of
Riz,
vibes,
director of vibes. Okay, so let's do this.
vibes director. I like that.
So we're going to play around with some of the features we've talked about before. I'm going to do a gradient. I like gradients. I'm going to do an orange,
Yeah, you
and then
love gradients.
I'm going to show you guys this. So I'm going to take this to black, but then I'm going to make it opaque. So it's a fade.
Hmm.
So you'll notice that that's now cross fading to nothing. So shake. I'm going to put this here. I'm going to run your name here over top of it, and I'm going to left justify it. So we'll bring you in like this, and I'm going
Look
to
at you're like a
bold.
pro presenter, graphic designer.
Yeah, a little bit.
I like it.
So then I'm going to copy this, and I'm going to put a smaller version down here, and you're going to say you're director of Riz
Director or
of
vibes.
Vibes. Okay.
Yeah.
Director of Vibes. Okay. We're going to make this a little smaller. We're going to make this.
Steve, can I interrupt you for a second for something that's kind of a tangent?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. What's that?
I today I learned a new term. It's a millennial pause, and
Millennial
and you
pause.
might
That's what it's
appreciate it.
called.
Yeah, yeah, and it's that in videos that are made by millennials like us, like videos where we're talking to the screen,
Uh huh.
social media videos. There's like a second or two pause at the beginning before we start talking because we're accustomed to having to wait a second or two for the recording to start, or whatever. And so I went through some of my videos on social media, and everyone,
You have a pause.
yeah, just a little millennial pause. Sometimes I'll take a breath, just to give just to give the video like a second to make sure it's running. And I guess later generations don't do that. They just go right in.
Well, that actually, now that you say that, that makes sense because I feel like I've seen older generations, like their videos get cut off almost a little bit because they haven't done the pause.
Right, right,
So they just start talking and you miss the first second. But
right. But I guess technology now doesn't have that. So then for us that are used to that, used to having to wait a second, where we have this pause, we have the second, or we're just like face frozen.
that's that's funny. Oh man, I'm not gonna have to go back and look through all of my social media. Thanks, I appreciate that.
Yeah,
I appreciate that.
yeah. I did that. I look back and it's true.
It's true. It's a true thing. So I'm just doing a little bit of fun here. I am adding in some animation to this
Mm.
prop. So I'm setting it up to start with the slide. I'm setting this up to start with the slide, and then I'm gonna add in a dissolve, and this is going to be a zero point 0.5 second dissolve, and this will be delayed 0.9 seconds so that the previous stuff can come in. And then I'm going to do the same thing here. This will be dissolve. 0.5 seconds, 0.9 seconds, and then this will be add, move in from the left, 1 second. This will start with slide. This will be here. Okay, so now let's just kind of play around and test that real quick. So you got to play around with it and kind of see what you don't like about it.
How it
Just like an
looks.
animation,
Yeah.
you kind of got to fine tune it. So we're gonna make
Can you
this.
preview it from this screen?
That is something I think that it would be beneficial for them to do because you can't preview it in
Right.
the props editor. Um, so
Okay.
you can't do that. But point three. I'm gonna take this down to point
Come on.
three. I'm gonna take this down to
Come on,
point four.
ProPresenter.
Point four with slide with slide. Okay, so let's take this off. Let's do this.
Mm.
So it kind of comes in. So
You know what? I feel like the bottom bar should come in just a second
a
later.
second later. Okay,
Can you do
this
that?
is where. Yep, absolutely. So we'll do this. We'll delay this for zero point 0.3 seconds, and we'll delay this for 0.7 seconds because the other one is going to. So now let's try this. We can slow it
Yeah.
down a little bit here. Let's slow this down.
Slow down a little,
Let's
yeah.
slow this down a little bit. Let's go to point 0.8, point 0.8. So now try this.
Wow. Yeah, there you go.
So like you can fine tune this really crazy. We won't spend all day,
Sure.
but like you can do different things with it. You can even do. So this is where show people some fun. You can even add build outs. So if you want it to slide, to move, to push, let's do push out. So if you want it to push to from the left, from the right, push it out, then you can do a push out of the thing. So you can do the rectangles to push out, and a build, push from the right, zero point 0.5, and you can do a dissolve, 0.4, and you can do a. And we're getting crazy. We're showing people all sorts of fun. But this is like the fun stuff of like figuring out how you can do stuff visually, add a little bit of
Yeah.
um,
Are there any animation templates that you can use?
you can't bring like templates in. I mean, you could like bring
Hmm.
in some animation onto the screen into a prop, but you can't
Yeah.
like import a deal. But so the question here, so this will be after
But you could theoretically
transition.
duplicate. You can duplicate a slide and just change the info, or do
Yes,
you have to go through
yes,
this
yeah, yeah, yeah,
process?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So once I do this, I'll show you how to make multiples real quick.
Okay.
So there's that.
Hmm.
So what you can do is so what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a 10-second delay here.
Hmm. Hmm.
10-second delay.
Show
And
time
that's
for 10
delaying
seconds.
that's delaying the out function to be so there's the end one and then after 10 seconds it'll move itself out. So you saw that it didn't completely do it.
Yeah.
It delayed. Anyway, you can fine tune that delay up to be with. So I don't use out a lot, but this is why I'm going to show you guys I don't use out a lot, because actually this new feature to me kind of eliminates the out a little bit. So I use it. I use in heavily because then I can get the stuff to animate in the way that I want it to. But here's the new feature that's really cool with Pro. So this is just normal, comes in, and then when I hit out, I can use this transition function, and I can either dissolve it or I'll do this. I'll do a push from the right, and that's how I'll do my out feature. So this, and that'll take it out. Or I tend to use just to dissolve because then it will dissolve the animation in. So boom, and then it'll take it out. So that's how I'd normally set my props to be up. But here's the new feature that's from ProPresenter that's really fun. You could use an auto clear function. So I can go after 5 seconds auto clear. So now I can drag this slide onto, like, let's say let's enlarge this. So here's my pastor speaking. Okay, he's starting his sermon, introducing, and then I can animate the prop on, and you'll notice it's counting down, and after 5 seconds, it'll pull it off.
Okay.
So that's really handy for like names of people because when you come on screen with someone's name, you don't want it to stay up there for so you guys can predetermine.
Yeah.
I can predetermine if I want this to be after 10 seconds. So after 10 seconds, it'll fade it'll fade off. So and you'll see it counting up this amount here, and
Hmm.
it'll automatically roll off. So now what I can
Can
do,
you
good.
can you trigger that whenever you want, or just when you click on the slide?
Nope, you can trigger it however you. There's a multiple ways to trigger it. So I can either drag the
Okay.
prop onto a slide. I can go to the props area, go into here and just click on it, and it'll do the same thing.
Okay. Okay.
Or
Yeah.
I can add it to a slide. So like let's say in the middle of a welcome, they're like, "Hey, we want this person to come up." I can boom, 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 trigger,
Mm.
boom, add it to a slide right away.
Boom. Boom. Boom.
So there's multiple ways to do it. Now I want to show you how to quickly take this template now and make multiple name slides. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go in here. I copied, I pasted, and I'm going to say Steve Dirks,
ProPresenter Poppy.
Pro Presenter Poppy.
There you go.
And then we're going to do, who else? Carl Barnhill.
Carl Barnhill. ProPresenter Father.
Better father. How about After Effects Magician?
Yeah, I like that.
And we'll do Kevin Weirs,
Let's see if there's an After Effects magician. Is there a
creative
Photoshop conjurer? Oh yeah, okay.
creative genius.
Creative genius.
Okay. So now I've got all these different names, right? Well, I can rename them
Yeah.
here. So I'm going to just rename this. This is Steve Dirks. I'm going to rename
Hmm.
this. This is Carl Barnhill. I'm going to rename this. This is Kevin Weirs. Okay. So now I've got multiple names. So here's what's really cool. What's some other features that have been really cool is if I let's say for example you got all these names, you got multiple people coming up on stage for a welcome, and you're like, well, here's what normally can tend to happen. So hey, we throw Shake's name up, so we throw his name up, Steve's name up, and then we throw Carl's name up, and it goes over top, and then we throw Kevin's name up, and it starts to like put on top of each
Hmm.
other. So you can set
Yeah.
ProPresenter to only be one prop. So when you click on a new prop, it clears all the other ones. So it'll
Now, is there a situation where you might need more than one prop at a time?
yeah. there is. So that's why you don't. That feature doesn't have to you don't have to keep that feature active if that makes sense. So
Hmm.
you can choose
Yeah.
like, okay, well, I need multiple props to show up. Then you don't want that. You don't want this button selected. But if I were to, which it's weird. Why this is be a little bit of a glitch. Interesting. Stand by. Yours is not re-triggering, but mine is. So there's that one, and then if I put this one up, you'll notice that as I'm clicking through ones,
Yeah, it's fading out.
it's clearing the other
Right.
one out. So it's keeping it cleared, it's keeping it set like that. The other thing that's really helpful is you can set an auto clear for these things. So let's just say we want shakes and we want this to auto clear. Sorry, it's set to auto clear after 10 seconds. But then let's say we want to be able to manually clear him as well. I can add another action and clear his and set up the clear command within my announcement. So let's say I've got it here. I can automatically clear it quicker just from this.
Okay.
So what's really helpful for me, what I think can be really helpful for churches is this. So let's say that we're going to have a welcome, we're going to have a few people up. So we've got Shake's and that we got Shake's name, and then we've got Steve coming up to do a piece, and then we've got Carl's coming up to do a piece. Well, I can go through these and it'll clear out the previous one. So automatically,
Yeah.
whereas before you had to manually clear those, set those up to clear. Well, now I can automatically have it set to if it's up for longer than 10 seconds to clear off. And then I can have it set to if I have Steve up and then Carl jumps up real quick, I can put his name up and then I can put Carl's name up and it'll automatically clear out stuff. So that's really helpful because it keeps your props from becoming active without you knowing. So what was happening before
Yeah.
is you'd have all these props and potentially at the end of a service, maybe you hadn't cleared some of them and some of them were still active and you had to make sure they were cleared when another one was used. So that's really helpful. That's really, I think, a cool feature of ProPresenter and what they're offering with this update. I know it's helpful for me, automatically being able to tell, props to clear after a period of time. Super helpful for me. Um, and then, yeah, the single prop mode is baller. So if you don't want multiple names to be showed up at one time, then this little button right here makes it so that only one prop can be up at a time. And I just love the ability to see now how long your animation has before it's going to clear. Like some of that stuff is just
Right.
helpful to know. So this whole entire props area, man, got a whole entire update. Really cool. I thought that was fantastic. The stuff that we've been asking for, stuff that people have been wanting, was really cool. So yeah,
I
that's
love it.
props. And I think there's a lot of
Props.
creative ways to use props. So don't just be tied to this. I use props in a lot of different ways in churches that I help. I'll do name animations. I'll do welcome setup slides for the sermon.
Oh,
I'll
nice.
do
Yeah.
tithes and offerings or welcome. Thanks for joining us. There's all sorts of ways that you can utilize props. Um, you know, and you can utilize the built-in animations from ProPresenter to add some flair to that and to create some movement on that. So
Right.
yeah, so I think there's some really cool features there that can help churches. If you're a church that maybe is using just the center screen with backgrounds and text, I still have seen props used really tastefully. Um, where I've used it a lot before is so if your church does giving and you guys want to highlight that people can text to give, sometimes that's a little weird to handle like during an offering song if you're doing a song is like you want to keep that information up for people but you also want to present lyrics and so I've seen a lot of churches nicely at the bottom or at the top make a nice thought out slide, kind of lower third or top eighth kind of thing that has the logo, that has the number, text this number, the amount, and to give. And that way that stuff can still stay up during a song. And then halfway through the song, you can clear it out. So you could set it to be 45 seconds or 60 seconds. So then after 60 seconds, that thing will automatically clear out. You don't have to manually do that. So that's the way that you can kind of creatively use props in your service to help you communicate special things, to keep things, in front of people, but also it not take up the screen the whole time. And you can automate some of that to automatically remove itself after a period of time. So, yep.
Yep, it's cool.
What you think?
I love it.
Yep.
I think what's nice about this is that most people can't use After Effects.
Right. Right.
So you're not going to be able to custom make your own animations. This kind of democratizes it, So it's maybe not After Effects level. You don't have the same level of control.
Right.
But it's something, to give your presentation a little more oomph, as it were.
Yeah, and you can play around with it, but there's all sorts of crazy stuff. There's noisy zooms, there's, squeezes, reveals, square wipes.
Mm-hmm.
There's crazy stuff. Some of this might
Yeah.
be stuff you never even use, but there could be, you could play around with it. And if
Yeah.
you're trying to create something, look at it and, film burns.
Yeah, it's like more tools in your toolbox.
Right. So like there's,
You know.
check out what works, play around with it, and see if you can recreate the effect that you're trying to go for. So,
Yeah.
this is real quick. Make something nice, create something that you're happy with and that your team's happy with, and then replicate it out. So I would say work on a
Right.
template that you're happy with and show that to your team. And then once you got one that you're happy with, replicate it out a bunch of times. So super easy. So
And clean.
yeah, man. Well,
Yeah.
we did it. So if you guys have any questions about ProPresenter, feel free to reach out. Let us know. You can hit us at ProPresenter@churchvisuals.com. We'd love to be a resource to help you and your church. If you want to take part of kind of the little poll, I'd love to hear from you guys. Drop in the comments how your church utilizes ProPresenter. Are you running both a iMag, stream kind of setup and also graphics and on a center screen? Are you just running content on a center screen with backgrounds and lyrics? No video like iMag cameras showing on the screen? Or are you doing just only like video iMag content in your room and there's not really any like graphics or content that's being customized for a single display in a different way? So let us know kind of the three options, how you guys are currently using ProPresenter. That'd be kind of helpful to maybe know if there's some things we could show you in coming episodes of how to use ProPresenter effectively and even maximize what you're doing in your space. If you have any questions, let us know. What are you struggling with? What do you wish you could do that you can't, maybe? Or what is something that you're really happy? Maybe something that you've done that you're like, man, I really like how this looks. I'd love to share this with the community. Feel free to let us know.
Yeah.
Yep.
I love it.
Cool. Shake, any last words, parting words before we wrap up?
Just enjoy the week. I was watching the Hot Ones episode with Ariana Grande.
Oh yeah,
and she said something that I thought was interesting. At the beginning, Sean Evans asked her, he's like, "Do you regret being here?" And she says, "No, I don't regret being here because I invited myself here." So you know what? Wherever you are, invite yourself into your situation. You know what I mean? Give yourself permission to enter. Okay?
There you go. And know that God invites us to be with Him. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks, Steve. You want to be more spiritual than me? Is that what it is?
Yeah. Boom. Case closed.
Okay, Lee Strobel.
Ooh. I don't know if I've ever been called that. Wow, that's old, man.
Case closed.
Case
You
closed.
said case closed.
Yeah,
So
I got it. I got it. Shouldn't have used those words. So that's all my bad. Well, Shake, I appreciate you, buddy. I hope you have a good week, just like everyone else on here. We're here for you. If there's anything
sure,
we can do to serve you and your church, I know Shake and I would count it a joy. So have a good week
for sure.
and blessings on you.